What light through yonder joint doth spark? Nah, but for real though, y'all, you're gonna want a little some of that if you want to make it all the way through this movie. Juliet and Romeo is I don't even know where to begin, man. I went into this one, I kind of took a flyer on it. This might surprise some of y'all. Little known fact, but Billy Joe is actually an avid enjoyer of musicals. Love them. I enjoy watching every one that I can find. And, I thought this was interesting because I haven't seen a musical rendition of Romeo and Juliet like that. I'm sure one's out there. I just haven't sought it out and seen it. Or maybe it hadn't been done before this, in which case, what a damn shame that this was the first time it was done. But I genuinely don't know, and I'd never seen one. So when I saw this come across the releases for the weekend, I was like, oh wow, I'll give it a shot. Let's check it out. What's the worst thing that could happen? Whew, boy. Pretty bad, actually. The worst thing that could happen is this exact thing that happened. For those of you, if any of you, that are not familiar with Romeo and Juliet, then did you go to school? I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody because, Billy Joe ain't one for academics, but did you go to school if you don't know this tale? I mean, because it's pretty timeless. Unfortunately, the director, the writer, everybody involved didn't really know the tale, or at least didn't have any respect for it because they made this heap of garbage. Y'all know Billy Joe don't normally talk spoilers, but for this one right here, we're going to have to make an exception for a couple of reasons. For one thing, y'all got like a 400 plus year head start on the source material, so if y'all don't know it by now, then you need more help than old Billy can give you. Number two, they make a few changes, so really that disclaimer there is not even entirely applicable because they do make some really serious... I can't begin to explain why they would think this was a good idea. Changes to the story of Romeo and Juliet, and we're gonna have to go into it because one of the reasons why this is marked what it is for me is actually due to some of the changes that they make. And one of the reasons that it is marked as high as it is, believe it or not, is because of a particular scene that is somewhat true to the original. So we're gonna have to go into a little bit of spoilers. It's not something you're gonna see from us every video. Really not often at all, but this is a situation where I feel like it is going to be a little necessary. Now, you may have seen a movie that came out several years ago now. It was called Romeo plus Juliet. And what that saw was a take on the original story of Romeo and Juliet with all the classic words and dialogue and basically everything that was an element of the original, but set in a modern day Miami Vice type scenario. This is essentially the opposite of that, where they take modern day terminology, modern day behaviors, so on and so forth, and set those in what is essentially a cheap replica of the correct period setting. And it just, I don't think either one of them works great, but the former works far better than the latter in this situation, unfortunately. And if you're anything like Billy, and you again, I don't know that it's been done before, but, I see the tale of Romeo and Juliet, and I think about it being a musical, and I think, man, there's going to be some really excellent opportunities for them to actually tell the tale of the emotions and the conflict and the struggle through some, like, really amazing musical numbers. And if you think like I do, then you are absolutely wrong, because they don't do any of that in here. Every single song just feels like a poor attempt at a music video. I mean, I'm talking, this is like High School Musical meets Shakespeare. One of the selling points of this movie to me was the idea of thinking that they would use the music as a means of really telling the story and communicating the emotions of the characters, but unfortunately, all the songs really blend in together. You can't really tell one from another. Several of them are just outright unnecessary. And, there's just never really get the opportunity to feel any true emotion in it. It always just feels like, okay, we're going to pause the story here to insert music video here. It's unfortunate because I've seen a lot of musicals in my time. And yeah, you have a couple that are occasionally just, mood setters to just kind of set the feeling for the scene. These are really just kind of 2000s pop MTV music videos that just get inserted into Fair Verona, and it's not fair, is what it is. It's not fair at all. Additionally, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Old Billy was rolling his eye a little bit at first at the thought of the name swap, because this is, as I mentioned, this is titled Juliet and Romeo. And, of course, thinking, here we go. But I stopped myself and I thought about it a little bit more. And I said, you know what? I wonder maybe, what if they're doing something where they're telling the story a little bit differently in this one? What if maybe, I wonder if they're going to take the chance to just tell a story more through Juliet's perspective as opposed from, the mutual or Romeo. Like, what if they're going to do this more from the perspective of her? And that's why they titled it that way. In the end, though, the only possible reason I could think of that they would have changed the name based on the story that's provided in this movie is out of respect, so that no Shakespeare fan may ever stumble upon this in an attempt to create a Shakespeare movie night. They just completely wanted to alienate themselves from the source material. Not only out of respect to the fans, as I mentioned, but out of respect to the man himself, and making sure that nobody just winds up finding this thing in the middle of the night, because, man, this thing should be locked away. So, how do we figure out just how bad this one is? Well, we're going to take a look at the missed mark method, break down a few of the marks, and see where it does right. Spoiler alert, not much. And what it does wrong. Now, with the missed mark method, I only ever used one detractor, one mark that was so bad that's the worst one, and that's what prevented it. But it was tough in this one, because there were a lot of places where this movie went really, really, really wrong. So to only pick one was a bit difficult, but we're not going to go there just yet. We're going to talk about the things that it does scrounge together some redeeming qualities. Starting off with the music. What should easily have been the battle cry of the whole movie was unfortunately reduced to nothing but a whimper. As I mentioned, this is due to a lack of significance in the songs. Everything sounds the same. It's all cookie cutter, 2000s pop. There's no real emotion in the music, and unfortunately there's numerous instances where you feel like it's teased, like, okay, here we go, this is going to be the moment where we turn that corner, we put some gas to it, we light this fire, and we put that song out there that's just going to belt from the inner soul, and then they revert back to the same old bullshit. Now, we do give the music a ranking of 0.5, which is standard, and I want to be clear, there are only two things that prevent this from being a 0 or a negative 0.5. And that is the fact that we have two songs that are actually solid jam. One of them being I Should Write This Down. And this is sung by the weed-slinging apothecary who's constantly trying to convince everybody to smoke some of that sweet Mary Jane. I really wish he'd have been at the theater, because everybody really could have used it. But this is actually one of the most unique songs in the film. Sadly, it is completely unnecessary. It doesn't actually add anything to the plot. It is a means to discover one of the mechanisms that is used to alter the ending of the movie a little bit, and which we'll kind of get into a little bit more later. But aside from that, which could have been done much simpler and much easier, this doesn't actually do anything. And it's completely unnecessary, but it is one of the few instances where the song is used to, in some way, progress the theme of the movie. And for that, and the fact that it is, again, one of the most quotable, sing-alongable songs that you got on here, I mean, we'll give it a little bit of credit. The other instance is Streets on Fire. This is probably the closest thing we get to a tone shift in the entire movie. This is the one time where we actually take a little bit more of that more raw, emotional, serious tone, and even still, it's like the cap is on and we just can't get through. We can't bust through this barrier of just not being generic. It doesn't hurt that this song accompanies some of the other made marks that we'll talk about here in just a second, but this is a song that I actually can find myself putting on and just listening to, because it is a certified jam in Billy Joe's eyes. Piggybacking on that, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the solid cinematography that's used in the movie. For that, we're going to add another 0.5 to the rating for cinema. There's some really well done shots of Fair Verona as they kind of pan through and show some of the walls and the city. Those are some of the more enjoyable aspects of the film visually, as most of it is kind of either just cluttered up with numerous extra people. I know it's a musical, but I'm telling you, even for a musical standard, these scenes were incredibly cluttered. The costumes felt cheap. Everything, the props, everything just felt either cheap, oversaturated. There was just not enough use of muted tones, I think. But everything just felt so overwhelming that it doesn't flow, it doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel natural, and again, it feels more like a High School Musical movie than anything. But when you get those shots of the city, and you kind of pan out a little bit, and you back up, and you get to really breathe it in, those moments are good. Very much overshadowed by many of the movie's short scenes. I'm telling you, you're gonna think I'm exaggerating a little bit, but when you go in, if you should be brave enough to find this online whenever it comes up, then you'll see there's a lot of scenes that are just so short that I'm just kind of curious as to why we even included it in the movie. And then we have other scenes that should be short and they drag on forever. Particularly one of Juliet's head. That's it. It's just zooming in on her head. Takes 5 fucking minutes. We got the point. Additionally, there is also a particular scene that I feel like, and this is a spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen the source material. This is your notice. This is a spoiler for you if you're out there. The battle between Tybalt and Mercutio is really, really well done. And the shots of the bridge and the music playing in the background, the emotion, the choreography with the swords, like everything in this scene I thought was well done. And it does go on for a little bit, which some of you might find is too much. Kind of get on with it. But for me, considering the fact that this was one of the few good things in the movie, I was happy to let them go on all day. Hell, y'all can just keep on fighting for the rest of the movie. We don't even got to worry about what anybody else is doing. Because this is the only thing in the movie that's had any relative interest. So, again, for all that, we had another half star for the cinema. And the last made mark, which is really more of a you didn't completely fuck it up as opposed to you did a good job, is the cast. And we're not going to actually award any stars for this one, but it does get a little bit of a break, and it's not getting a detractor either. So we're going to give 0 stars for the cast. This is below average for a few reasons. Romeo and Juliet's characters are just not good. They're not good. Romeo's okay. He's nothing special, but Juliet continues with the theme of 2000s music video, because what the hell's going on with that hair, dude? Nobody looked like that. What are you doing? Most of the performances in this feel rather flat, and you also have a few really good inclusions, though. And this is where we get 0 as opposed to negative. Jason Isaacs does play a role in this, albeit very small, which is unfortunate because his acting performance is one of the best things in the movie, and it's very, very, very limited, as all the good things in this movie are, all 2 of them. Rebel Wilson is also included in the cast on this one, but the perplexing thing here, imagine casting Rebel Wilson in a musical and giving her like 30 seconds of singing time. What'd you bother casting her for, man? She literally has all of maybe 5 lines in the whole movie, and that's including her singing lines. I mean, she plays such a minor part in the movie, and, I kind of thought about it, and once again, I made the assumption that when I saw Rebel Wilson was in this, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is a, musical version of Romeo and Juliet. They're going to kind of alter some things a little bit to involve her character more and have her sing some songs about that to help elevate the movie. Nope. She's literally just there for her. I don't even want to say it was 30 seconds, man. I think it might have been even less than 30 seconds of singing, which is absolutely insane. The real star of the cast here, and I say stars actually, are, as I mentioned previously, Tybalt and Mercutio. They actually have some of the more solid emotional scenes, performances, and their characters actually show the most, I don't want to say growth, but investment, I suppose. You really feel like they're the only ones that are actually doing anything other than just trying out for a new MTV reality show. And everybody feels like that's what they're doing. A more entertaining way to tell this story would have been to take a chance to tell the story of Tybalt and Mercutio and focus on them. Let Romeo and Juliet have the back seat, do whatever unspeakable and downright unwatchable acts they want to commit. Now it's time to look at the missed marks. And I could go on and on and on for days about how awful this movie is, but we're going to stick to the one thing that I think really just ruined the entire movie. And that is, sadly, the plot. Right? How is the plot of Romeo and Juliet the biggest detractor? It's all right there. You have the song in there that says, I should write this down. You don't have to write anything down. It's already written down. It is written down, and it has been for 400 plus years. It is right there. All you got to do is pick it up and execute it. Oh, they executed it all right. But not on the stage. They took it to the freaking guillotine and executed it publicly for everybody to see. And now here we're going to get the big spoiler for this movie. Now there are, as I mentioned, several changes to the original plot in this film. The biggest one of all, and this is your last warning. This is one of the only times I'm ever going to give a movie specific spoiler on one of my reviews. So if you are adamant that you don't want to know this, first of all, don't look at the poster. Second of all, skip this. They live. They live at the end of the movie. They survive. The weight of the story is that it's a tragedy, and that there's this consequence, there's this heft, that this impact, that all of this, everything that we just went through, it's gonna mean something. You take that away, and you rob the story of its meaning. It's downright ridiculous that they're marketing Romeo and Juliet as a love story. It's not. It's a tragedy. There's a difference between a romance and a tragedy. There are two different things. All right, this is not a fairy tale. This is a tragedy. There's a lot of crimes that are committed throughout this movie, including the distribution of cannabis by the apothecary, but that's not the greatest one of all. The greatest one of all is truly robbing the movie of that ending. And, that I just can't do it. I can't do it. There's some things that are sacred that you just don't mess with, and that's one of them. I did have some notes about, there's a lot of failed attempt at comedy throughout the movie. They try to utilize the modern day lingo, as I mentioned, like, where the hell art thou, Romeo? And it just falls so flat. But the best joke of the movie is actually not one that's in the movie at all. It was told by the director when he said that this was going to be a trilogy. Dude, nobody's watching a trilogy of this shit. All right, barely anybody even watched the real thing. This review was actually delayed a bit. I actually went to see this on opening weekend, and it was my wife and I. And again, I didn't even know about the movie. I was looking at the releases because I'm thinking, okay, there's not really anything new coming out this week that I haven't seen. So maybe what's something else that I haven't heard of? Saw this one, I thought, hey, you know what? I'll take the wife. We'll go see a musical. We'll have a good day. This ruined the entire day, actually, seeing this movie. This is normally where I say, you should wait for it to come to streaming, or you should go see it in theaters. Y'all, this movie didn't even make it 10 days. Like, my review was delayed because I went on vacation. I started seeing other movies. Things just one thing after another. So I'm playing catch up right now, and a lot of the movies are actually a couple weeks old. But this one didn't even make it 10 days in the theater, and I'm not surprised. It was just my wife, myself, and one other person in the movie theater on a Saturday. On release weekend, too, at that. Y'all, like, you can't sustain that and make a trilogy. So that's absolutely hilarious that the director thinks it's going to be a trilogy. So, don't go see it in the theater because you can't. And probably don't watch it on streaming either because it's just a waste of time. The sole tragedy here is the very existence of this movie. So with that, we are officially going to cement it. This one right here, this is a casualty. And I'm not talking about the casualty of Romeo and Juliet. I'm talking about the casualty of you, the viewer, in the audience. Don't see this one. Skip it. Wait for another one to come out. Avoid.